Greetings, stewards of Middle-earth, kings of Arnor, and servants of the Dark Lord, and welcome back to our manuscripts archive. Within our vast temples, I have been expecting you. While normally we conduct research relating to the power of certain individuals, such as the power of beings such as Sauron, Gandalf, Morgoth, Manwë, and Ungoliant, some of the most powerful beings to ever disgrace and grace the world of Tolkien. Today we are going to be diving into a more abstract and unknown part of Tolkien's worlds, the War of Wrath. The War of Wrath, also referenced in ancient texts as the Great Battle, was a war consisting of elves, men, and Valar against the original Dark Lord Morgoth, the greatest of the Ainur, consisting of both the Valar and the Ainur. At the end of the First Age, that marked the end of both the Age and of Morgoth's reign of tyranny in Middle-earth. It was the largest battle of the First Age and widely considered and hailed as the largest battle to ever occur in Arda itself. It resulted in the expulsion of Morgoth from Arda and thrust through the Door of Night, and the ruin of Thangorodrim. But the violence of the clashes between the forces of the Valar and Morgoth through this 4-decade-long siege shattered the northwestern portion of Middle-earth, Beleriand, causing it to sink beneath the ocean. However, despite this brief description I have just treated to you two, there are a multitude of other details that lay hidden concealed beneath the surface. And today, we shall be uncovering the more abstract, unique details and intricacies laid into the War of Wrath's description. Are you ready, stewards of Middle-earth? Let us proceed. Before we begin, I would like to inform you that if you can turn your attention briefly to the glimmering red subscribe button, if you wish to ascend to the rank of an Istari, and become one of the 5 wizards sent as emissaries to combat Sauron, and ascend to a power on par with that of Eru Ilúvatar himself, do no harm, and hit the subscribe button. Subscribing is free and you can always change your mind if you believe that is the best outcome for your choices. Now, enjoy the video. The War of Wrath was a 4-decade-long siege that ran from the First Age 545 to the First Age 587. 42 years of conflict, and a very big conflict at that. By the early 6th century of the First Age, Morgoth's dominion had been completely uncontested in Middle-earth. The efforts of the elves, men, and dwarves to resist his efforts of tyranny and carnage had failed, and all the great elf kingdoms had been overthrown, with the recent overthrowing of the secret kingdom of Gondolin. Morgoth is now master of nearly all Beleriand, save for the havens in Arvenian, which he gave little heed to. To make matters worse, to the great amusement of Morgoth, the sons of Fëanor, seeking the Silmaril of Beren and Luthien, bound by their oath, had launched 2 devastatingly brutal kingslayings, in which they had both destroyed Doriath and the havens of Sirion. In this time of need, the Mariana Elendil, by the guidance of a Silmaril which he wore on his forehead, searched for and came to Valinor on behalf of the free peoples of Middle-earth. There, he pleaded to the Valar and to Manwë to pardon and aid the overmatched peoples of Middle-earth. Manwë was hesitant, as he knew that him alone could not defeat Morgoth. No being, except for Eru Ilúvatar himself, could defeat Morgoth on his own. Despite having pledged to leave the Noldor to reap bitter harvest of their folly attempt in pursuing Morgoth and destroying his reign on Middle-earth, Manwë was moved by Elendil's devastatingly authentic plea. Along with the Valar and the remaining Noldor in Aman, the host of the Valar came to Middle-earth in the mightiest gathering of arms in the history of Arda, all the way up until the Third Age, surpassing even the great battles of Minas Tirith and the Battle of the Black Gate. The Teleri and Alhanagdi granted the use of ships to ferry the hosts of Aman to Middle-earth, but they remembered still the kingslaying of their people long ago, and harboured much bitterness over it. As such, they sent only what mariners were needed to crew the ships, and none of them set foot on Middle-earth once they arrived. The great force of Aman marched across Beleriand to meet the armies of Morgoth, and the cursed beings that Morgoth had been brewing within Angband and Utumno, his fortresses, for the past nearly 1,000 years. They met the armies of Morgoth in the plains of Umfalglith. Morgoth marshalled the entirety of his forces, which by this point had become so immensely vast that Unfoulbleaf itself could not contain their numbers. Though the war lasted for over 40 years, the host of the Valar utterly decimated the orc armies of Morgoth, as well as most of the Balrogs. As we know, one would eventually escape underground in Khazad-dûm, eventually becoming Durin's Bane, possibly the last Balrog in all of Middle-earth. While the three houses of men fought alongside the Valar, many other men from the east fought for the forces of Morgoth and were either destroyed or forced to flee back to the far eastern realms of Middle-earth. Facing his final defeat, Morgoth released his ultimate weapon, the winged dragons, never before seen in Middle-earth. Their terrible, fiery ignitance onslaught was accompanied by a ferocious and vicious lightning storm and tempest of fire. They drove the Valar back instantly and nearly destroyed the hosts of the west. Unfortunately, Elendil came down with his skyship Vingaloth, along with the Eagles of Menway led by Thorondor, the current Lord of the Great Eagles. In the skies above Enbed, they confronted the dragons, and Elendil himself slew their captain, the mighty Ancalagon the Black. Ancalagon the Black was so enormous he was able to break the towers of Thangorodrim in his fall, and was the most powerful dragon in all of Middle-earth's history. Gandalf even makes a brief mention to him during the events of The Lord of the Rings, stating that when Frodo stated if rings of power could be melted by dragonfire, Gandalf stated that no ring of power could ever harm the One Ring, and no fire, despite even Ancalagon the Black, could ever harm it. They confronted the dragons, and Ancalagon, now defeated, broke the towers of Thangorodrim in his fall. Angband was then levelled, and Morgoth was finally captured in the deepest of his minds. He sued and prayed for pardon and peace, but he was bound again with the old chain Anganglor, and the two Silmarils still adorned his crown were taken by the Maiar Eonwe, the herald of Menway. Morgoth was then taken to Aman and tried for his crimes. In the end, the Valar unhosed Morgoth by beheading him and thrusting him through the door of night, beyond the walls of the world, into the timeless void, the doors of which are forever guarded by Elendil, in case of Morgoth's treacherous and inevitable return. The geographical records wrought by the War of Wrath was immense. Not of the lands of the west of the Blue Mountains was destroyed and sank beneath the waves. Though it was not known exactly how many casualties the host of the west endured. The war dragged on for decades before they managed to actually approach Angband, and the attack of Morgoth's winged dragons was known to have nearly been catastrophic to the forces of the Valar, nearly decimating them all, while the hosts of Morgoth were utterly defeated, with only a few thousand orcs left to scatter and scurry around the depths of Middle-earth. Particularly orcs, as well as the Balrog and Sauron, remained to trouble the world under the power of Sauron himself. Additionally, it was noted that a few Balrogs fled and hid deep in the earth, though only one, known by the title of Durin's Bane in Khazad-dûm, was ever noted by history to have reappeared again. Some number of dragons, particularly cold drakes, also hid away in the mountains. These dragons bred over time and became particularly troublesome for the dwarves in ages to come, including Smaug in the Third Age. Nearly all of the winged fire drakes were destroyed by Elendil, Thorondor, and his eagles, but we know of two who fled. The remaining elves were bidden by Eonwe to return with him to the lands of Aman, and like that, the war that had ravaged Middle-earth for decades was finally ended. Well, my stewards and knights of Middle-earth, what did you think of this video? Are you going to venture and try to recover the ancient plains of Beleriand from beneath the sea? Or will you take a more dangerous and risky approach by going to confront Eru and Manwë himself, or possibly break the door of night and unleash the horrors of Morgoth and Ungoliant once again? Goodbye, my friends, and I'll see you guarding the gate of Aman-Sul soon enough.